Hi, Anne. Fantastic. I think I'm going to start now. I think quite a lot of people will be coming in as we go along. And I first of all would like to give a very warm welcome to Professor Postlethwaite. As you can see, I think many of our students are rather shy, so they will be listening intently to your presentation. But first of all, I would like to introduce Professor Postlethwaite. Professor Susan Postlethwaite is the Professor of Fashion Technologies at the Manchester Fashion Institute and the Director of ROLE. ROLE is the Robotics Living Lab, and she was actually a fashion practitioner. So following a fashion design career, working for Ralph Lauren and Armani, Professor Postlethwaite was the director of the Fashion Futures Master's Program at the London College of Fashion and Senior Research Fellow Fashion Program at the Royal College of Art. And of course, she went on to win £3 million funding for the Burberry Material Futures Research Group. And without further ado, I would like to invite Professor Postlethwaite to deliver her talk on learning from volume manufacture and engineering expertise translated into a micro factory setting to support micro and SME designer manufacturers. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jean. So I'll just share my screen with everybody. Okay. Okay, so I hope everybody can see that. Okay. Okay, so good morning from the UK. So as Jean has introduced me, I'm from the Robotics Living Lab, so ROLE for short, at Manchester Metropolitan University as part of Manchester Fashion Institute, and we got our funding through the Arts and Humanities Research Council. So thank you for the invitation to speak today. So I'll be introducing ROLE. I'll set out the problem spaces as I see them and suggest solutions. And there's so much that we can learn from what you're doing in Hong Kong. My background is in fashion design, as Jean has said. I trained at Central St. Martin's. I worked for Ralph Lauren in New York in the late 80s and for Giorgio Armani. My biggest regret is not going to work in the factories that Armani developed. So I'd always thought that it would have been a much better apprenticeship to be where the clothes and the decision making actually took place. So we got our funding from the Arts and Humanities Research Council. So it was CRESCA funded through the World Class Lab series, £4 million, which enabled us to buy infrastructure and to acquire tools. So the thought process was that we'd been 5 years in gestation before the funding application. And of course, we're aware of Hong Kong RITA and everything that's happening in Hong Kong. So why Manchester? Manchester is the birthplace of the first industrial revolution. We're now on Industry 6.0. So robotics was introduced in Industry 4. The human in the loop came in Industry 5. And we now have AI as very much a feature of Industry 6. So why the Living Lab? So it's very much from a humanities perspective, where collaboration with micro and SME fashion design and manufacturer businesses is a core value for ROLE. So designing with them, designing new tools and new systems as a collaborative endeavour. So we're the first of our kind within a fashion institute, certainly in the UK. We do know of other labs. We know of other labs in China, for instance, but we are the first one in the UK. We're aligning ourselves with Createch, so fashion sits across both the creative industries and the design space and industry and manufacturing and business. So very much a Createch focus. We have a sustainability agenda, so we're very interested in reshoring, upskilling of the workforce, and modernising UK manufacture. And as I've said, the idea was at least 5 years in gestation. So my research focuses in becoming designers becoming fabricators. So automotive, aerospace, medical, and other industries have engineering, digital technologies, systems design that could support a new approach to fashion design and fabrication for local and agile resistant microfactory and SME fashion design and manufacturer businesses. The siloing of the design process away from sites of manufacture is a historic problem for fashion in particular, and designers aren't trained to understand the complexities of putting design into production. I propose a radical transformation and reimagining of the designer's role that takes more responsibility for the climate crisis and fashion industry generated solutions to environmental problems. So this is the lab space. We developed a kit list, as you can imagine, very early on, and a lot of desirables that we wanted to acquire. So we've got lots of different robot arms that you can see in the various configurations. We've got bespoke robot cells that were made for us by Innovo Robotics. We've got semi-industrial embroidery tools. We've got a knitterate machine. We've got semi-industrial and parallel yarn winding tools. We've got a Vectron sewing machine. We've got 3D printers. We've got a lot of off-the-shelf tooling, so gripper tools and so on. And everything is on wheels. So you can see that everything is reconfigurable to be a micro factory setting. So this is what the space used to look like. It was an ex-finance office. We took down an awful lot of interior walls, and this is very much a work in progress to develop the space. So we had a launch event 6 months ago, so in February 2025. Christopher Smith, CEO of the Arts and Humanities Research Council, gave a lovely speech. Jalaj Hora is here. He's our global chair and visiting professor. And Judith Rosser Davies is chair of the External Advisory Board to Manchester Fashion Institute. And here we've got the whole external advisory team. So we were able to commission a brand new building as part of the funding. So the work in progress pavilion is the second space that we built, and we built it from scratch. And it provides us with an exhibition space, offices, and a seminar space. And we can fit up to about 30 people seated either at tables or in a seminar format. And the exterior and this planter are very beautiful black charred larch timber. And it's a very beautiful building. So this is the interior. We have an exhibition of tools currently, a large library, a large screen for showcasing what we've been developing. And again, the space is reconfigurable and it's a highly visible space from the outside. So we've got a lot of windows to enable us to be visible. So the WIP space is the most low carbon, small building ever designed by Bennett's Associates Architects. We have a UK grown timber structure, UK straw infill in the wall cavities, 2-meter long ground screws as foundations. We have a ground source heat pump and a specially designed ventilation system. So, our background research to the UK fashion sector. The UK fashion industry has an international reputation for creative design and contributes 32.3 billion to the UK economy, but that's mostly from imported goods. So it's not manufacturing in the UK per se. The UK has, as a field, seen limited impact of digital technologies in manufacturing, and much of its production has been moved offshore. We need to bring that expertise back, or we would like to, but we need to learn from other people and other industries. Current levels of automation across UK fashion is much lower than other sectors. So automotive and aerospace have much more automation than the fashion sector does. There are a lot of challenges of integrating automation into a highly creative sector with a need for very high levels of agility in the production process. Environmental challenges include the demand for net zero emissions manufacturing and distribution by 2030. We know that the Chinese government, for instance, has set that target to 2060. I can see us slipping away from the 2030 target very soon. We need to minimize extraction of previous raw materials, and we need to minimize waste, particularly to landfill. There's also a problem with robotics and the rare earth minerals and metals that are used in the production process, and they present a huge problem. Where they're mined and by whom they're mined is quite a challenge for us. So we need to do some research around that. And we don't build any robots in the UK at all currently. So barriers to adoption. Most of the UK fashion businesses are micro and SME businesses. So the turnover of a medium-sized business is less than 50 million, and they have fewer than 250 employees. Small businesses, the turnover is less than 10 million, and they have fewer than 50 employees. And micros, the turnover is less than 2 million, and they have fewer than 10 employees. So we're talking about really quite small enterprises in a UK context. The problems of garment manufacturing in the UK require sustained attention from policymakers, stakeholders, and gatekeepers. And there are a lot of gatekeepers currently in the UK industry who would claim that we do output perfect product and we don't need to change anything. But actually, I think we do. Small scale firms are hacking existing technologies and investing where they can, but they're not able, they're not seen as a viable market by machining and tooling producers, or as a viable investment, or as a lending opportunity for investors, which is problematic. Garment development software funding is not accessible to micro designer manufacturer businesses, certainly not without a lot of support. Staff training and resources to employ skilled operators is too expensive for micro firms. Business owners are often unable or unwilling to take time away from their primary focus to contribute to research. So R&D or to complete surveys and questionnaires, they're just not able to do that. Garment manufacturing industries lack an effective voice to lobby for change with government, and too many self-appointed fashion industry gatekeepers don't understand manufacturing in a UK context. So the UK is suffering from a severe skills shortage in manufacturing. Young people don't want to engage with manufacturing, which they regard as dark, dirty, and dangerous. And this is clearly a reference to the first industrial revolution, and it just goes to show how little things have changed in the UK context. The UK have an aging workforce and a Brexit brain drain. So a lot of people have returned to their countries of origin to set up new production facilities. Sweatshops and modern day slavery equate to a poor image of the UK fashion industry. Currently, the work is perceived as dull, repetitive, badly paid, below minimum wage, seen as low skill, and lacks training schemes. So the UK fashion academics have steered policy discussions towards a humanities perspective with a focus on consumption, underinformed ideas of sustainability and well-being nudge agendas. Their hopes of influencing policy have fallen on deaf ears, where they've been unable to engage in the economic and manufacturing argument as to why the fashion industry is important and how it can be supported to be more sustainable. Much of the research into circular economic models has been entirely speculative and widely criticised as being impossible to implement without further policy initiatives and legislation in a UK context. There's a necessity for greater collaboration internationally to understand how other countries are successfully developing these positions. So I'm going to talk about the advanced automation and robotics for sustainable manufacturing in a future slide. We got the funding for that from the Circular Fashion Innovation Network, which is part of the British Fashion Council. But I also wanted to talk very briefly about the Createch report. So the report is with the Royal Anniversary Trust and the Department for Culture, Media and Sport, and it's called How the Fusion of Emerging Technologies and Creative Industries Can Transform the UK's Approach to Skills, Innovation and Business. It has a case study about role and proposes a new creative industries catapult, which I believe will support the fashion sector very well if we can achieve it. So catapults are not-for-profit, independent technology and innovation centres which connect business with the UK's research and academic communities. Businesses and educational institutions can use them to access technical facilities and expertise. And the Coronation Challenge paper suggests a new catapult should be funded through Innovate UK with a cost of 500 to 700 million over the next 5 years, and with an ambition to leverage at least 10 million from industry. So I want to talk now about the advancing automation and robotics for sustainable manufacturing and the key recommendations that that report includes. So this is something that Roll set up with the Manufacturing Technology Centre. We took around 30 micro and SME fashion design and manufacturer businesses to the MTC in Coventry, and the outcome from interviews, from a workshop and a questionnaire and these are the results of that investigation. So UK fashion and textiles companies could increase efficiency, reduce production costs, improve production quality and consistency using robotics with the right financial support from government and inward investment. The UK fashion and textile sector needs support to modernise across the supply chain. So currently we're really in the dark ages, I would say. Automating fabric cutting, sewing, bonding and pressing tasks, as well as the sorting of raw materials, identifying textiles for recycling, and defect detection in textiles can be carried out by robots, and they certainly can be carried out by robots, and we know that there are those capabilities within collaborative robotics too. There's an opportunity to upskill the workforce in the fashion and textile sector, developing a new narrative around modern industry and modern industrial practices, where UK firms may lack expertise in the latest technologies. So we know that the fashion industry is really lacking a modern industry perspective. And success metrics for the UK fashion and textile sector include the adoption of more advanced machinery and tooling across the sector. Fashion textiles firms could move from prototype to scaled production with the efficient use of collaborative robotics. Ease of use is absolutely crucial for the adoption of robotics, and companies are much more likely to invest in systems that are intuitive and accessible. Engaging with industry to identify the skills gaps, we need to work in tandem with universities to develop new courses. MFI, so Manchester Fashion Institute, is developing a new course as we speak, which will come online in 2027. So that's a new master's course. So we'll start recruiting to that next year. Inclusion of fashion and textile sector in the new industrial strategy policy. That hasn't happened so far, but that is my aim, and I'll talk about that in the future. UK fashion and textiles industry and wider manufacturing ecosystems could become a scaled up innovation business sector that might develop circular economic models for sustainable growth. I've underlined the might there because there are some issues which I'll talk about later. So, UK's new industrial strategy, doesn't include the UK fashion and textile sector. Fashion needs to be taken seriously by the UK government and should have been written into the Invest 2035 Modern Industrial Strategy. Reshoring and nearshoring agendas, upskilling and place-based making are really important. Otherwise, the UK will lose any claims to expertise in garment making. Legislation and regulatory frameworks, e.g., for example, EU law will impact the UK, as will protectionist measures and the imposition of tariffs by the US. And all of this is currently being discussed, I believe, in Scotland. There are lots of bodies in a UK context who need to support and champion UK-made fashion. So MMU's policy arm, the Policy and Evidence Centre, Circular Fashion Innovation Network, the Institute for Positive Fashion, UK Fashion and Textiles Association, and the British Fashion Council will all need to champion made in the UK. I've just written a paper for Fashion Practice. It's a special edition for the Future Fashion Factory Creative Industries Clusters project funded by the AHRC. It's called A Repositioning, Why the UK Fashion Industry Should Be Included in the New Industrial Strategy. So combined with recent geopolitical events, I propose that fashion should have been a major part of and specifically named in the industrial strategy document and the creative industries sector plan, which was recently published by the UK government. So, positive reframing, aims and objectives, re-advanced manufacturing. So Roll's collaborative methodology is academic and industry facing. It involves staff at the Manchester Fashion Institute as part of the Emerging Technologies Research Group. And we also have industry partners, for example, Burberry. We're just about to sign an agreement with Cytive. We have an NDA with Burberry. So methodological development includes practice research, design ethnography, and an interdisciplinary positioning. We will co-design a residency program and a workshop series and focus groups. And that will be offered to design and manufacturer businesses to speculate on, propose and design and iterate the kind of robotics or agile tooling that could support developments within their business. So that's very much around a collaborative position where we want to co-design with micro and SME fashion designer manufacturer businesses. Roll proposes ease of use and more intuitive design of technologies, and the lowering of costs in automation will encourage young people to consider manufacturing as a highly skilled job. And Roll would be very pleased to have introductions to factory and fabrication sites internationally to understand what processes already exist, what could be automated, what needs to remain human skill. So collaborative robots need to be developed to live up to their potential to be agile, creative, AI-enabled support for human operators. And Roll is obviously looking for match funding and for sponsorship. So I would argue that a new generation of designers is needed within the industry with a combined skill set of designer-led innovation, a critical approach to new technologies, and an understanding of engineering, digital and scientific paradigms. I argue that the training of a new type of designer researcher is necessary, one who's able to effectively and in a transdisciplinary structure and who has deep understanding of an academic field is able to question and hold to account emerging new industrial models. As localized production, an increase in online sales, and a focus on domestic consumer preferences leads to the demand of regional and specific niche products, I propose new manufacturing tools and systems will be necessary to enable designers to fully engage in developing products for these new emerging markets, while understanding the urgent need for more environmentally aware practices to address the climate crisis. So, high value, low volume, and a newly skilled workforce. So, the UK fashion designer training encourages graduates to set up their own micro businesses. UK multi-faculty universities need to accept the challenge of redesigning education that's fit for purpose and proposes engaging with STEAM subjects, so that's science, technology, engineering, art and maths, or D-STEM or STEAM plus D. Training needs to involve engineering to understand the potentials for reconfiguring manufacturing. We need to develop a shared language across engineering and fashion design disciplines. And we need agility in thinking, so hard and soft skills rather than rigid apprenticeship models. So the image that you can see on the right-hand side of your screen is very important to the positioning of Roll and the narrative for Roll. So it informed my thinking about the tooling for the fashion industry and why it hasn't changed for over 100 years. So this woman is sitting in an exoskeleton. She's working on a car body part. It looks like a car dashboard. And she's got all her tools suspended from the ceiling next to her. And this was a really, really important image that a student introduced me to, in fact, when I was teaching at the Royal College of Art. And it has really informed my thinking ever since. So, fashion meets engineering. Oh, sorry. The team at Roll consists of engineers, roboticists, fashion designers, some of whom have engineering backgrounds. Because Roll needs access to engineering expertise in manufacturing firms nationally and internationally to carry out research into processes that can be automated and those that need to remain human skill. The dialogue between engineering as a discipline and fashion as a discipline is fundamental to Roll's remit. And Roll is currently designing a glossary of terms which will be used to support the dialogue across these disciplinary boundaries for interdisciplinarity. So we're now moving very much towards a factory in a box model. You can see the image shows the robot cell in the work in progress space that was designed for us by Innovo Robotics, and they have offices in the UK. We don't fabricate any robots in the UK, so they ship from Hong Kong. Role is designing a factory in a box scenario, a smart micro factory, which can be dropped anywhere in the world in the service of local designer manufacturer communities. We have just recruited a new postdoc post to work on this positioning. We're trying to imagine how AI might engage in the design of robotics and agile tooling. And we're thinking about large language models or even large visual models that might help us to design manufacturing processes. Role is pivoting to design for disassembly, repair and reuse. And we've got legislation and regulatory frameworks very much in our mind. So extended producer responsibility schemes and a ban on the destruction of unsold textiles. And this is all coming from Europe in particular and will impact on us. So we designed, this is the first end effector tool that we've designed. So it's a cutting tool, end effector. It was funded by the Cotton Textiles Research Trust. And we're currently developing future iterations. So this was the first iteration on the left-hand side of your screen. This was the second iteration. This is the third iteration attached to the Innovo robot arm. So we want to design a suite of tools for fashion use. And we know that micro and SME fashion design and manufacturer businesses spend a huge amount of time cutting out by hand. This tool is relatively cheap. The robot costs about £2,000, and the end effector is £500. So we've done some research which shows that cost effectiveness to micro businesses and SMEs can show a saving after a year of use with our cutting tool. So we've got an actuated blade, safety features, so you can't get your fingers underneath while the blade is in motion, a pizza wheel, cutting blade, and a bespoke workbench with a vacuum table. So we intend to make the casing smaller and more lightweight and more user-friendly in the next iterations. So at Roll, we talk about taking the tool to the textile rather than the other way around. This is a stitch tool that I saw at ITMA. It currently doesn't have a needle in it, but it's very much our thinking and our way of thinking about taking the tool to the textile. We know that deformable textiles presents a huge problem for collaborative robotic technologies. We know that most firms don't show their latest tools at trade fairs. And we know that there are fully automated factories for volume production in the Asia Pacific region. But making contact with those volume producers to try and visit is quite complex. I don't think we present any kind of competition for those kinds of businesses, and we would really like to connect with them. So we took part in the Tomorrow's Wardrobe exhibition as part of the Future Observatory at the Design Museum in London. And this allowed us to speculate on the agility of tooling and do some horizon scanning. And it enabled thoughts about the future of collaboration with more autonomous robots, where they become part of the decision-making process, suggesting ways to fabricate garments. Roll showed the end effector tool in its first iteration, and I worked with the illustrator to devise the poster for the exhibition. And the end effector tools that you can see are very similar actually to the end effector tools that we already have in the lab. So as far as futuring is concerned, we weren't stepping too far into the future, but we would have liked to have. So I will undertake a Chancellor's Policy Fellowship just to get the UK government to take fashion more seriously. So it's called the Fashion Sector Inclusion in Government Policy Initiatives. It's funded by Metropolis, who are MMU's policy think tank. So I'll be acting in a bridging role between the UK Fashion and Textiles Association, the British Fashion Council, the Greater London Authority and Greater Manchester Combined Authority, where I can influence advanced manufacturing policy with a fashion-specific focus. Post the launch of the industrial strategy and the creative industries sector plan, there's an opportunity for me to work with these 4 organisations to put garment production at the heart of regeneration strategy. Micro factories, factory-in-a-box models, agile tooling and robotics developments, as we've said, are very timely, and given the continuing uncertainty regarding tariffs, very important to UK manufacturing. My research includes place-based making, upskilling and reskilling of the workforce, and micro factory developments, which are all recognised as vital positioning for reshoring. I'm going to be supported by offices in the Culture, Creative Industries and 24-hour London unit, which reports directly to the Deputy Mayor of Creative Industries, Justine Simons. And I'll be building connections with the Mayor's Cultural Leadership Board and other relevant bodies through the GLA. I'll be supported in the project delivery through introductions from all these organisations to parliamentarians in the UK to advocate for place-based making, and a joint position paper will be the result. So the output will be a discussion of the vital role of fashion design through advanced manufacturing to UK ecosystems with a London-Manchester focus. So the idea of the GMCA is, so that's Greater Manchester Combined Authority, is to retain more micro and SME businesses in the area through regeneration policy and advanced tooling solutions and factory-in-a-box models. We're going to introduce, I'm going to be introduced to the International Centre for Creative Industries Steering Group, which will enable me to use my research to discuss regeneration potentials with experts already involved in supporting micro and SME fashion design and manufacturer businesses. So I have already quite a close link with Paul Smith's foundation and the British Fashion Council New Gen awardees. This strategic involvement will enable me to meet and hold roundtable discussions between the BFC, UKFT, GLA and GCMA. And fashion's inclusion in creative industries catapult, and that's from the Coronation Challenge report, can be further developed and potentially cited across the 2 cities for a future research project, which might involve the University of the Arts Policy Unit and role at Manchester Fashion Institute. So, final look at the lab space, and thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Susan. So I would like to welcome questions from the floor. Please feel free, if you want to ask questions, you can either type it into the chat box or you can switch on your mic and just give us a shout out for the question. I see, is there any questions so far? If not, I'll start the ball rolling and perhaps pose a question to Susan. Susan, do you think there's still a lot of value for the made in the UK?
So, we did some research around
Uh-huh,
that, and some firms said yes, they did think that there was value, and
uh-huh,
some firms really thought that there wasn't value in a made in
right,
the UK label. Obviously, we would like to reshore manufacturing to the UK, um, and we need to do that through high value, low volume manufacturing very much.
right. And you mentioned earlier on that there is like there's not enough knowledge, or there's a lot of preconceived ideas about the manufacturing industry, that it is a low cost labor, etc., etc. What is the real scenario right now? Are the people in this industry very highly valued in the UK? Are they able to make a good living?
Yeah, so there are small and micro businesses in a UK context that deliver really high value, really extraordinary product. And so that's the narrative that we would like to hold on to and to share with everybody. Um, so we also have the boohoos and the nasty girls
Mm,
and that kind of production within a UK context. And Leicester has been
mm,
really in the spotlight.
mm,
So they're trying to change the direction of Leicester as a manufacturing centre. And whether that actually is possible, whether the taint will continue, I don't really know.
mm.
But yeah, that remains to be seen. But we do have exceptional manufacturers in the UK.
Fantastic, thank you. And I thank Tian Hu, who has typed in a question for you in the chat box. So
Yeah.
yes. And there's an observation about a parallel challenge. While UK fashion holds globally renowned premium status in China, brand recognition beyond icons like Burberry and Clarks remains limited. You rightly noted advanced manufacturing's potential to enhance competitiveness. My question is, how might heritage brands leverage fast evolving manufacturing technologies, such as AI-driven design, without diluting the craftsmanship and core identity? This is a fantastic question.
It's a great question,
Yeah.
actually. So, we've been to the manufacturing centre in the Burberry manufacturing centre that manufactures raincoats in the UK, and we've seen the hand felling processes that they continue to develop, and the training for those processes is really, really long and involved. And you don't get to work on those processes unless you've gone through a lot of
Mm,
training. So it's quite complicated to understand how we can square that circle of so craftsmanship and core identity and the use of AI. I think it's probably possible. So a lot of the systems that Burberry uses, for instance, are automated, and they're using AI already, and they're doing a lot of work around that space. The craftsmanship comes in the hand stitching as well. So I think it probably is possible to use both.
fantastic, thank you. And I would like to welcome a question from Professor Boddington. And thank you.
Sorry, I thought I'd turn my mic on first. Hi, Susan. Thank you. Thank
Hello
you
there.
very much. Probably you're dreading this, but you shouldn't. It's just I happen to be in Hong Kong.
Okay.
Couple of questions, really. One is a speculative question, and the other one's a really serious one, I think, for universities everywhere. The first is, how do you think fashion changes as a result of this? I mean, I'm really interested to know what, we've got heritage brands, we've got mass manufacture all over the world, but I wonder what you think changes in fashion if we do onshoring, for example, or we do,
So
factory in a
yeah.
box?
Well, I would argue that we need to develop micro and SME fashion designer manufacturer businesses that are uh, potentially luxury businesses, so high value, low volume businesses in a UK context, because we're not going to produce at volume in the UK. And we need to bring expertise back, has always been my argument. Whether that's possible, I think it is possible through the Robotics Living Lab, but it will be very small scale. So we're not presenting any kind of challenge to large volume manufacturers anywhere in the world, but we do need to try and bring things back to the UK. Otherwise, we're going to lose all the expertise that was once held there. And it's a really complicated situation. We do need to reshore, I would argue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fascinated by that as an idea, and I think it's a really exciting idea. I suppose I now speak as a former dean, and somebody, of course, used to look at the numbers of people recruiting fashion students and say, oh, that's a good recruiter.
Mhm.
We'll take some more of them, and we used to teach them, I think, what the fashion fantasy was. I think what the fashion
Yeah,
fantasy
yeah, yeah,
still
yeah,
is. So I
yeah.
guess my question is, if I was looking at a fashion course, because you've still got to have an eye and an understanding of what fashion is, but you've got to have for me, a different or completely different skill set. And one of the things that
You have, yeah.
I'm really interested in is you've got to attract the students, so you've still got to live the fashion fantasy, but you've also got to say, actually, okay, sharpen up, change the skill set.
They need to be
What does craft do?
engineers as well as designers. They
Okay,
absolutely do.
so
Yeah.
is the course longer? Is it different? And what does or it doesn't do? I mean, I'm really interested in the kind of
Yes.
detail of.
So it's fundamentally different, I would say.
Yeah.
So what we're thinking about in MFI terms is a master's course that's potentially 2 years long and is an MSc. So,
Mm.
that you've got the science thinking and the engineering thinking in parallel with the fashion design.
Is that too late?
No, I don't think it is too
Ah,
late,
okay.
actually.
It's just the reason I was interested in it was what you start with. It's always the kind of foundation, do you start with kind of the
So I think you
fashion
probably have
fantasy?
to start with creativity,
Mm.
and then develop on at master's level. And majority students do master's level courses now in order to prepare themselves for industry.
I've been just wondering whether that's the right way around, I suppose. Whether you take
Okay.
that down.
Well, if you want to set up
No, it's just
a
fashion
BA
engineering.
course that will, so how long could we extend fashion design courses for to incorporate robotics and technologies and engineering paradigms? That would be a really interesting
Yeah,
idea for me.
yeah, I agree.
Long
It's
courses.
really interesting. It's just how you balance, if you like, recruitment and numbers, and all
Yeah.
the things that fashion is, and wonderful things that fashion is in many ways, but also with actually the really exciting stuff possibly is a completely different
It's
business.
a completely different kind of course,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that we need to develop.
It
Yeah.
sounds like a very exciting course because we also have a master's program in wearable technology. And we find that there are students from different backgrounds, some from engineering backgrounds, some from fashion backgrounds that come in, and they have very different takes on it. And it's a
Yeah.
1.5 year program.
So I think that collaboration across disciplines can be really, really fruitful, actually, and really exciting.
Yes. And I think amongst the audience, we have many students who may be in transition. So we have students from the PhD programs or students from the master's programs. I think they'll be very excited to know if there are any PhD opportunities or postdoc opportunities where you are.
So yes, there certainly are. So anybody can apply to join us at Roll. What we're currently looking for is industry-sponsored PhDs. So we'd really like industry to be involved very much, so that and they pay part of the fee and the stipend for students. So that's what we would encourage students to apply for.
Right. So it's a partially paid by the
Partially
university,
funded,
right?
yeah,
And then
yeah,
the rest will be funded by Roll.
yes,
Yes. Okay.
yeah.
Fantastic. So
Well, by the university,
right.
by MMU, yes.
So our students can take note. If you are interested, make sure that
Yes,
you send in
indeed.
your CVs and seek for opportunities to work at a very new and fantastic facility. And I think before we go, I have another question, because you know, in recent times, we have seen a lot of interesting news coming from Italy. Talking about the production in Italy, how it is actually a sweatshop scenario, but they are making it for the super high-end brands. And what's your view about that? Will this kind of micro factories help solve part of the problem?
I would hope so. So I think that the situation in Italy, it was ever thus. You know, uh, it's a problem. It's a real problem for Italian producers. You know, why is it that they're able to claim that they're producing high-end and luxury goods when they're working in exactly the same factories as low volume production?
Fantastic. Thank you. And one last note to the audience. If you have any questions that perhaps you would like to get in contact with Professor Postlethwaite, may I know, Susan, is it possible that they will find your contact details online and they can email you their CVs, etc.?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Yes, I would really welcome that. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, and fantastic. And is there any questions that you would like to ask Susan? Mike?
I think I might have spoken too much already. It's Susan's show, not mine. I was just interested to join it, and congratulations, Susan. It's brilliant.
Thank you. Thank
Great
you
to
so
see
much,
it.
Anne. Okay, great.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for the great presentation, and we are very invigorated by what you are doing right now in Manchester. For many of us practitioners, it is very difficult for us to think about how we are going to do the production, and this could be a way that we can slowly scale up our productions. So thank you so much again. So and I just want to say it's a great honor to have you as a speaker, and I want to thank all our participants for joining us on a very rainy day in Hong Kong. So it's extremely rainy today. So thank you so much, everyone. So this is the end of our presentation.
Thanks
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.